My meatloaf was cooling on my plate when Lauren dropped the bombshell. 23 years of marriage, and she chose a Tuesday night dinner to detonate our lives. I want an open relationship, she announced, cutting her asparagus with surgical precision, with Gregory Langston from the firm. Accept it or get out. I set down my fork and studied my wife's face. The same high cheekbones that had caught my eye in college, now hardened by years of corporate law and a quiet contempt. Her blonde hair was pulled back into the severe bun she wore to intimidate opposing counsel. Tonight, apparently, I was the opposition. An open relationship, I repeated, tasting the words like sour milk. Lauren ignored me. I have given this a lot of thought. We can maintain our domestic arrangement while pursuing other interests. It is very civilized. Civilized. That was Lauren's favorite word for anything that benefited her while harming someone else. She had used it when she accepted the promotion that required 60-hour weeks. Civilized when she moved into the guest room because my snoring disturbed her beauty sleep. Civilized when she had come home at midnight, claiming client dinners that lasted until the bars closed. I leaned back in my chair, studying her expectant expression. She thought she had me cornered. The blue-collar husband who was never quite good enough for the corporate lawyer, the salvage yard owner who embarrassed her at firm events, the chump who had built her a perfect suburban life while she plotted her escape. Well, she pushed, what is it going to be? I smiled. Not the defeated grimace she expected, but a genuine, warm smile that made her blink twice. I accept. The words hung in the air like smoke. Lauren's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. Our daughter Brooke's thumbs froze on her phone screen. You what? I accept. I repeated, reaching for my water glass. The open relationship sounds fascinating. Lauren recovered first, her lawyer's mask slipping back into place. Good. I am glad we can handle this like adults. But I caught the uncertainty in her voice. This was not the script she had rehearsed. She expected anger, tears, maybe a dramatic exit. Instead, I was calmly finishing my meatloaf while her perfect plan developed a hairline crack. When does it start? I asked conversationally. This arrangement with Langston. The grand opening, so to speak. Her cheeks flushed. We already, that is, Gregory and I, had been involved in an inappropriate relationship behind my back for months. I finished helpfully. Yes, I suspected as much. The late nights, the sudden changes in your habits, the way you rushed to freshen up immediately after coming home. Either you had crossed a serious line, or you had developed a sudden passion for midnight gym sessions. Brooke made a disgusted sound. I am eating here. Sorry, sweetie. I turned back to Lauren, who was gripping her knife like she wanted to use it on my face. So what is the schedule? Are you moving in with him? Or is this more of a part-time arrangement? We are working out the details. Of course you are. And his wife? Natalie, is it? How is she taking the news? Lauren's face paled. That is Gregory's problem, naturally. Well, this should be interesting. I stood, picking up my plate. Thanks for dinner, honey. Very illuminating. I headed for the kitchen, leaving Lauren staring at my back. Through the window, I could see the lights of our neighbors' houses, each one hiding its own secrets and lies. The Andersons with their frequent late-night disputes, the Garcias dealing with family challenges, the Wilsons and their questionable financial practices. Now we would have our own contribution to the neighborhood rumor mill. I scraped my plate into the sink, thinking about Gregory Langston. Tall, silver-haired, with that practice charm that impressed clients and led to complicated personal situations. I had met him at Lauren's firm events and watched him work a room. He had soft hands and a firm handshake. The kind of man who had never changed his own oil or swung a hammer in frustration. The kind of man Lauren thought she deserved. Behind me, I heard chairs scraping against the hardwood floor. Dinner was officially over. Lauren's heels clicked toward the stairs, probably to call her colleague and report on the conversation. Brooke shuffled past, muttering something about dysfunctional families and college applications. I stood at the sink, watching the water swirl down the drain, and allowed myself a moment of genuine satisfaction. Lauren thought she had played her trump card. She had no idea I had been holding a royal flush for 3 weeks. Ever since I had followed her to that downtown Hilton and watched her meet Langston in the lobby. Ever since I had hired a private investigator to document their secret meetings. Ever since I had contacted Natalie Langston and discovered she had her own collection of evidence. Lauren wanted an open relationship. She was about to get more openness than she had ever bargained for. I dried my hands on a dish towel and headed to my workshop in the garage. I had some planning to do, and the holiday party season was just around the corner. 3 weeks earlier, I had been a different man. Suspicious but hopeful, hurt but willing to give my wife the benefit of the doubt. That version of me had followed Lauren to the downtown Hilton, parking across the street like a concerned husband, hoping to prove my concerns were unfounded. Instead, I had watched her walk into the lobby at 2:47 in the afternoon on a Wednesday, wearing the red dress I had bought for our anniversary. She had greeted Gregory Langston in a way that left no doubt about the nature of their involvement, while business travelers pretended not to notice. I had sat in my pickup truck for 20 minutes, engine running, trying to process what I had seen. Then I had driven home, called my lawyer, and hired the best private investigator in the city. 2 days later, I had pictures. 1 week after that, I had hotel receipts, credit card statements, and a timeline that went back 8 months. But the real breakthrough came when I decided to find Natalie Langston. Gregory's wife lived in a large colonial-style home in the historic district, the kind of place that spoke of established success and carefully guarded privacy. I had expected to find a broken woman, maybe someone willing to share coffee and mutual disappointment. Instead, I found a woman who was prepared. "You are Lauren's husband," Natalie said, opening the door. She was shorter than I had imagined, maybe 5'3" in her stocking feet, with auburn hair and eyes like green glass. "I was wondering when you would show up." We met at the Anchor, a quiet dive bar on the edge of town where neither of our spouses would ever think to look. Natalie arrived first, settling into a corner booth and sipping a martini. "So," she said after I had ordered a beer, "how long have you known?" 3 weeks. 6 months, she smiled, and it was not a pleasant one. "Gregory thinks he is so clever, but he has always been predictable. Same pattern every time. A younger colleague, expensive hotels, promises he never intends to keep. Every time. Oh, honey, your wife is not his first complicated situation. She is just the latest in a long line of ambitious lawyers who thought getting involved with a senior partner would advance their career." Natalie took a sip of her martini, studying me over the rim. "The question is, what are we going to do about it?" That conversation lasted 4 hours. By the time we parted, we had exchanged phone numbers, email addresses, and a mutual commitment to seeing the situation through to its proper conclusion. Natalie, it turned out, was a forensic accountant with a talent for finding hidden assets and buried secrets. She had been documenting Gregory's situations for years, building a case that would leave him facing serious professional and financial consequences. She just needed the right moment to act. I was that moment. "The Christmas party," she had said, shaking my hand in the parking lot. "Gregory always brings Lauren as his date, thinking I am too dignified to make a scene. This year will be different." Now, standing in my garage workshop, I reviewed the evidence we had accumulated. Photos of Lauren and Gregory entering and leaving hotels, credit card receipts for dinners and gifts, email exchanges and messages that clearly violated multiple company policies. But the crown jewel was the recording. Natalie had placed a simple voice-activated device in Gregory's home office. The previous week, it had captured a conversation between Gregory and Lauren that would change everything. "The partners are announcing promotions next month," Gregory's voice said, tinny but clear through my laptop speakers. "I can guarantee you will be on the list, but we need to be discreet until then." "How discreet?" Lauren had asked. "Discreet in public, less so in private. Once you make partner, we can be more open about our arrangement." "And your wife?" "Natalie is not a problem. She knows her place." I had listened to that recording a dozen times, memorizing every smug intonation. Natalie was right. Gregory was predictable. He thought he was managing 2 women, keeping us both in our assigned roles while he controlled the situation. He had no idea we were comparing notes. My phone buzzed with a text from Natalie. "Confirmed for Friday. Table 12. We're something that photographs well. The firm's Christmas party." Lauren had been talking about it for weeks, debating between the black cocktail dress and the navy blue one with the plunging neckline. She had settled on the navy blue, probably because Gregory had complimented her in it at the last firm event. She expected to walk in on his arm, the conqueror who had successfully negotiated her way out of a troublesome marriage, the brilliant lawyer who had managed to have her cake and eat it too. Instead, She would find her husband waiting at table 12 with Gregory's wife, both of us smiling like we had just won the lottery. I closed my laptop and went back into the house. Lauren was in her office, door closed, her voice low and intimate, probably debriefing with Gregory about our dinner conversation, reassuring him that everything was going according to plan. Let her think that. Let them both think they had outsmarted the blue-collar husband and the wife who had been underestimated for too long. Friday night was going to be educational for everyone. The Willow Creek Country Club glittered with enough Christmas lights to power a small town. Ice sculptures of reindeer flanked the entrance, while a string quartet played holiday classics for the arriving guests. Lauren's firm knew how to throw a party, especially when they were celebrating another year of billable hours and client acquisitions. I adjusted my tie and checked my watch. 7:15 in the evening. Perfect timing. Lauren had left an hour earlier, claiming she needed to arrive early for some pre-party networking. In reality, she was probably in Gregory's office, sharing a drink and congratulating themselves on their successful handling of the situation. They thought they had managed to keep their involvement discreet while maneuvering me into accepting their arrangement. They were about to learn the difference between discreet and secret. I parked my pickup truck between a BMW and a Mercedes, ignoring the valet who looked like he would rather be anywhere else. The grand ballroom was buzzing with conversation and the clinking of glasses. 200 of the city's legal elite, celebrating another profitable year. Natalie was waiting near the coat check, stunning in an emerald green dress that complemented her auburn hair. She had chosen her outfit carefully, elegant enough to fit in, dramatic enough to be memorable. "You clean up nice," she said, taking my offered arm. "You look like a woman with a plan." Several, in fact, all of them leading to accountability. She smiled, and I was reminded of why Gregory had underestimated her for so long. Natalie looked like the quintessential well-bred wife, all good manners and charity luncheons. In reality, she was a force in designer clothing. We walked into the ballroom together, and I felt the subtle shift in attention that happens when people notice something unexpected. Ryan Whitaker, the salvage yard owner, walking in with Natalie Langston, the senior partner's wife. Conversations faltered mid-sentence as guests tried to process what they were seeing. Table 12 was perfectly positioned for maximum visibility, close enough to the dance floor to be noticed, but far enough from the head table to avoid an immediate confrontation. Natalie had chosen well. "There they are," she murmured, nodding toward the bar. Lauren was standing next to Gregory, laughing at something he had whispered in her ear. She was wearing the navy blue dress, as predicted, along with her grandmother's pearl necklace and the diamond earrings I had given her for Christmas the previous year. She looked confident, relaxed, like a woman who had successfully navigated a difficult situation. Gregory was holding court with several junior associates, playing the part of the wise mentor. His silver hair was perfectly coiffed, his tuxedo impeccable. He gestured with his martini glass, probably telling a war story from his early days at the firm. Neither of them had noticed us yet. "Champagne?" I asked Natalie. "Something stronger. It is going to be a long night." I flagged down a server and ordered drinks while Natalie settled into her chair, arranging herself with the precision of a chess master positioning her pieces. Around us, the party continued its predictable rhythm. Partners schmoozed with clients. Associates networked desperately. Spouses made small talk about holiday plans and home renovations. Ryan Whitaker. I turned to find Tyler Brooks, a colleague of Lauren's, approaching our table with obvious curiosity. Tyler was a decent guy, one of the few lawyers at the firm who did not treat me like hired help at these events. "Tyler, good to see you." I stood to shake his hand. "Do you know Natalie Langston?" Tyler's expression flickered as he processed the introduction. "Of course. Mrs. Langston. You look lovely tonight." "Thank you, Tyler. Ryan was just telling me about his salvage business. Fascinating work." The conversation was perfectly normal on the surface, but I could see Tyler's mind spinning. Why was Ryan Whitaker sitting with Gregory Langston's wife? Where was Lauren? Where was Gregory? "Well," Tyler said after a moment, "I will let you two enjoy your evening. Have a good time at the party." He moved away, probably heading straight for the rumor mill. Within minutes, half the room would know that something unusual was happening at table 12. "And so it begins," Natalie whispered, sipping her whiskey. The first domino had fallen. Lauren noticed us 25 minutes later. I had watched her scan the room during a lull in conversation, her gaze moving systematically from table to table in the way she had learned from courtroom proceedings. When her eyes found mine, her champagne glass stopped halfway to her lips. For a moment, she just stared. Then her gaze shifted to Natalie, and I saw the exact moment that understanding hit. Her face went pale beneath her carefully applied makeup, and her free hand gripped the edge of the bar as if for support. Gregory was still talking, oblivious to his wife's presence 15 feet away. He had his back to our table, gesturing animatedly as he described a courtroom victory to his captive audience. Lauren murmured something in his ear. Gregory turned, following her gaze across the room. His smile faltered, and his martini glass slipped from his fingers. The sound of crystal hitting marble was surprisingly loud in the elegant ballroom. Conversations paused as heads turned toward the noise, just in time to see Gregory Langston staring at his wife and her unexpected dinner companion. Natalie's face remained composed. Gregory's face cycled through several expressions: surprise, confusion, and finally dawning realization as he understood what he was seeing. His wife, who was supposed to be at home with a migraine, sitting with Lauren's husband like they were old friends. The whispers started immediately. Is that Gregory's wife? Why is she with Ryan Whitaker? Where is Lauren supposed to be sitting? Did you know they knew each other? Natalie rose gracefully, smoothing her dress. I think it is time for introductions, don't you? We crossed the ballroom together, weaving between tables as conversations died in our wake. The string quartet continued to play, but their Christmas melody sounded strangely discordant against the rising tension in the room. Lauren and Gregory remained frozen by the bar, trapped between their public personas and their private panic. They could not make a scene without drawing more attention, but they could not ignore us without seeming rude. Gregory, Natalie said warmly, rising on her toes to kiss her husband's cheek. You look surprised to see me. Natalie, I thought you were. You said you had a migraine. I felt much better after I spoke with Ryan. We have been having the most interesting conversation about mutual interests. Lauren found her voice. Ryan, what are you doing here? Attending my wife's company Christmas party with my date. I smiled at Natalie. You remember Natalie, don't you? Gregory's wife. The silence stretched taut around us. I could feel the attention of 200 guests, all pretending to mind their own business, all straining to hear every word. Gregory cleared his throat. Perhaps we should find a more private place to. Oh, I think it is private enough right here, Natalie interrupted. After all, we are all friends here, are we not? Just two couples enjoying a lovely evening out. She emphasized the word couples just enough to make her meaning clear. Lauren's champagne glass began to tremble in her hand. In fact, I said, I was hoping to get some advice from Gregory about workplace relationships, professional boundaries, that sort of thing. Gregory's face turned a shade of gray. I do not think this is the appropriate venue. Really? Because Lauren was just telling me how the firm encourages open communication, transparency, bringing things into the light. The champagne glass slipped from Lauren's fingers. It shattered against the marble floor, the second time in 5 minutes, sending shards skittering across the polished surface. Champagne splashed onto Lauren's navy blue dress, leaving dark stains. The conversations around us stopped completely. Oh dear, Natalie said, her voice carrying clearly in the sudden silence. How clumsy. Not to worry. Some stains eventually come out. Others are permanent. Lauren stared at her ruined dress, then looked up at the sea of faces watching our little drama unfold. Her carefully constructed image was cracking, revealing the panic underneath. I need some air, she whispered. Excellent idea, I agreed. Gregory, why don't you help her? Natalie and I will hold down the fort. Gregory looked like he wanted to argue, but with half the firm watching, he had no choice. He took Lauren's arm and steered her toward the terrace doors, leaving Natalie and me standing by the bar, surrounded by broken glass and fascinated witnesses. Well, Natalie said, signaling the bartender. That went better than expected. The murmurs resumed with renewed intensity, spreading through the ballroom like a wildfire. By morning, everyone in the city's legal community would know that something dramatic had happened at the Christmas party. They just would not know what, yet. Monday morning arrived with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. I was in my office at the salvage yard, reviewing inventory reports, when my phone started vibrating with calls from Lauren's colleagues. Word had spread quickly through the legal community. Something had happened at the Christmas party, and everyone wanted details. I let them all go to voicemail. At 9:47 in the morning, my lawyer called with the news I had been waiting for. The package was delivered this morning, he said. Human Resources received it first. Your friend was very thorough. Natalie had spent the weekend assembling what she called the evidence portfolio, a comprehensive collection of documents proving Gregory and Lauren's involvement, complete with dates, locations, and clear company policy violations. Hotel receipts paid with corporate credit cards. Email exchanges using company servers. Messages sent during billable hours. Most damning of all was the recording from Gregory's office, where he explicitly linked a promotion to their continued involvement. That alone was enough to create serious liability for the firm. How long until they are called in? I asked. I would say before lunch. Human Resources does not mess around with this kind of situation. I hung up and went back to my paperwork, but concentration was impossible. Every few minutes, I found myself checking the clock, imagining the scene unfolding at Lauren's office. The phone call summoning her to Human Resources. The walk down the hallway past colleagues who had heard the rumors but did not know the details. The conference room where her career would officially end. At 11:23 in the morning, Lauren called. You set this up, she said, without preamble. You and that woman, Natalie. Good morning to you too, honey. How is work? Do not play innocent. I know you are behind this. You and Natalie. I leaned back in my chair, savoring the panic in her voice. Behind what? I am just a simple salvage yard owner, remember? What could I possibly have done to the brilliant corporate lawyer? They have everything, Ryan. Every receipt, every message, her voice broke. They are letting us go? Both of us. Effective immediately. My goodness, that is terrible. Perhaps you should have reviewed the employee handbook more carefully. I seem to recall something about professional conduct and conflicts of interest. This is payback. You could not handle the situation, so you decided to destroy my career. Handle the situation? I laughed, genuinely amused. Lauren, you did not reject me. You tried to manage me. There is a difference. Silence on the line. Then, what do you want? Want? I do not want anything. I already have everything I need. The money, the house, I will give you whatever you want. You will give me what my lawyer negotiates in the divorce settlement, which, given your current employment status, should be quite favorable. Another long silence. When Lauren spoke again, her voice was smaller, more desperate. Ryan, please. We can fix this. We can go to therapy, figure out how to save the marriage. Save the marriage? The one you undermined when you decided to get involved with Gregory Langston in hotel rooms paid for with company money. It did not mean anything. It was just what? Just a way to advance your career? Just something on the side while your husband worked 60-hour weeks to pay the mortgage? Just a temporary arrangement until you figured out how to trade up? It was not like that. No? Then explain it to me. Help me understand how a woman asks her husband for an open relationship when she has already been involved with her colleague for 8 months. No answer. That is what I thought. I continued. You know what is really telling? You could have just asked for a divorce. I would have been hurt, but I would have been fair. Instead, you tried to have it both ways. Keep the comfortable life I provided while pursuing your upgrade on the side. I never wanted it to go this far. But it did go this far. And now there are consequences. I ended the call and went back to my paperwork. But the phone rang again almost immediately. This time, it was Natalie. Phase 1 complete, she said. Gregory was escorted out of the building. They have frozen his access to company accounts and suspended his partnership pending a full investigation. How is he taking it? About as you would expect. He tried to blame Lauren. Said she pursued him and he was just mentoring her. Very gallant. The other partners are furious. Gregory was supposed to bring in 3 major clients this quarter. Now they have to explain to those clients why their lead counsel is under investigation for ethical violations. Natalie sounded almost relieved, like someone who had just completed a particularly satisfying task. I guess in her world of forensic accounting and careful documentation, our situation was just another problem to be systematically addressed. What is phase 2? I asked. The social component. Gregory thinks his reputation in the legal community will survive this. He is wrong. That afternoon, I drove to the country club where Gregory played golf every Wednesday. I did not have a membership. That required a level of social standing I had never achieved. but I knew the parking lot well enough. Lauren had dragged me to enough charity events and networking dinners there over the years. Gregory's silver BMW was parked in its usual spot near the clubhouse entrance. I parked next to it and waited. He emerged from the building 20 minutes later, still wearing his golf clothes, but moving with the defeated posture of a man whose world had collapsed overnight. When he saw me leaning against his car, he stopped short. "Ryan." "Gregory, how was your round? What do you want?" "Just wanted to see how you were holding up. I heard you had a rough morning." His face flushed red. "You think you are clever, don't you? You and Natalie, playing your little games." "Games? I thought we were all being civilized." "Is that not the word Lauren used? A civilized arrangement. You do not understand the situation. Lauren and you are unemployed. That is the situation." Gregory took a step closer, and for a moment I thought he might try to take a swing. He was taller than me, but soft from years of desk work and client lunches. I had spent 25 years hauling scrap metal and rebuilding engines. The physical confrontation would have been brief and one-sided. Instead, he seemed to deflate. "This is not over." "You are right," I agreed. "It is not. See, the thing about consequences is they have a tendency to ripple outward. Your former clients are going to need new representation. Your colleagues are going to distance themselves from the scandal. Your country club membership is probably going to face some scrutiny when the story hits the legal journals." His face paled. "You would not." "I would not what? Tell the truth about what happened? Share the evidence with interested parties?" "Gregory, everything we have done has been completely legal and above board. We are just being transparent. Open. Is that not what you and Lauren wanted?" I got back in my pickup and rolled down the window. "Give my regards to Natalie when you get home. I am sure she is planning a very direct conversation." As I drove away, I could see Gregory in my rearview mirror, standing alone in the parking lot with his golf clubs and his shattered circumstances. The ripple effects were already beginning. Weeks later, I sat in my lawyer's office, watching Lauren sign the divorce papers with a trembling hand. She had lost weight since the Christmas party, her face gaunt, her designer clothes hanging loosely on her frame. The confident lawyer who had demanded an open relationship had been replaced by a woman facing significant challenges. "The settlement is quite generous, considering the circumstances," my lawyer observed. "Mrs. Whitaker retains her personal effects and her car. Mr. Whitaker retains the house, the business, and all joint assets." Lauren's lawyer, a public defender she had been forced to hire after her legal network distanced itself, looked uncomfortable with the arrangement. But with Lauren unemployed and facing potential issues from her former firm, she had no leverage to negotiate for better terms. "The non-disclosure agreement covers all aspects of the marriage and its dissolution," my lawyer continued. "Both parties agree not to discuss private details with the media or third parties." This had been my idea. Lauren's situation was already complete in our social circle. I had no interest in making it a public spectacle. Lauren signed the last page and pushed the documents across the table without meeting my eyes. 23 years of marriage, reduced to a stack of legal paper and a property settlement that left her with almost nothing. "I will need 2 weeks to find an apartment," she said quietly. "Take a month," I replied. "Brooke will need time to adjust." Our daughter had chosen to stay with me, a decision that had surprised no one except Lauren. Brooke had watched her mother's choices unfold with the brutal honesty of adolescence, and she had made her own judgment accordingly. After the lawyers finished their paperwork, Lauren and I found ourselves alone in the parking garage. She leaned against her car, the one asset she had managed to keep, and finally looked at me directly. "Was it worth it?" she asked. "Destroying everything we built together." "I did not destroy anything, Lauren. I just refused to pretend it had not already been destroyed. Gregory and it was not supposed to happen like this. We thought we could manage the situation. Keep everyone content. Keep everyone content, or keep everyone useful." She flinched. "That is not fair." "Fair? You want to talk about fair?" I stepped closer, and she instinctively backed against her car. "Fair would have been asking for a divorce when you realized you did not love me anymore. Fair would have been honest communication instead of 8 months of deception. Fair would have been considering our daughter's feelings before you decided to blow up our family. I made mistakes. You made choices. Every hotel room, every lie, every time you came home and pretended to be a loving wife while you were planning your exit strategy. Those were choices. Lauren's composure finally cracked. Tears streamed down her cheeks, smudging her carefully applied makeup. I am sorry. I am so sorry, Ryan. I never wanted it to end like this. But it did end like this. And now you have to live with the consequences. I walked away, leaving her in the parking garage. It should have felt like a victory, but mostly it just felt like closing a book I had once loved to read. The house was quiet when I got home. Brooke was at school, probably telling her friends about her parents' divorce with the casual honesty that teenagers reserve for family matters. The rooms felt different without Lauren's presence, less tense, but also emptier. I made a pot of coffee and sat in my kitchen, looking out at the backyard where we had hosted 2 decades of birthday parties and barbecues. The swing set was still there, though Brooke had outgrown it years ago. Lauren had always talked about having it removed, but I had resisted. Some things were worth preserving, even after their practical purpose had ended. My phone buzzed with a text from Natalie. Gregory moved out this morning. Took 2 suitcases and his golf clubs. Left everything else. I texted back. How are you doing? Better than I expected. Turns out I do not miss him as much as I thought I would. Natalie and I had maintained our alliance throughout the divorce proceedings, sharing information and coordinating our legal strategies. Gregory had tried to turn us against each other, suggesting that Natalie and I were involved in something to distract from his own choices. The accusation had backfired when Natalie produced evidence of his previous situations, dating back almost a decade. Dinner tonight? She texted. My treat. I considered the invitation. Natalie was an attractive, intelligent, and resourceful woman, with a sharp sense of humor honed by years of marriage to someone who had repeatedly broken trust. Under different circumstances, we might have developed genuine feelings for each other. But we had bonded over mutual betrayal and a shared desire for accountability. That was a foundation for a partnership, not a romance. Rain check, I replied. Need some time to figure out what normal is. I get it. Take care of yourself, Ryan. And thank you for everything. I put the phone down and finished my coffee, thinking about the future for the first time in months. Brooke would be finishing high school the following year and heading off to college. The salvage yard was profitable enough to support both of us comfortably. I was 45 years old, financially stable, and finally free from a marriage that had been crumbling, piece by piece, for years. Lauren had wanted an open relationship. Instead, she had opened the door to a new life. Mine. That evening, Brooke came home from school with the news that the rumor mill had finally caught up with reality. Everyone is talking about Mom and Mr. Langston, she said, dropping her backpack by the front door. Sarah Martinez said her mom heard they both lost their jobs because of an inappropriate relationship at work. What did you tell her? That it was none of her business. Brooke studied my face. Are you okay with people knowing? The truth was always going to come out, sweetie. Better that it comes out accurately. She nodded, accepting this with the pragmatism she had inherited from both her parents. Dad, I am glad you did not let her get away with it. Get away with what? Treating you like you were not important, like you did not matter. Brooke's voice carried an edge of anger that uncomfortably reminded me of Lauren. She thought she was so smart, playing games and making plans. But you were smarter. I looked at my 17-year-old daughter, wiser beyond her years, already learning lessons about trust and accountability that I had hoped she would not need for decades. I was not trying to be smart, Brooke. I was just trying to protect what was left of our family. Same thing, is it not? Maybe it was. Maybe survival and clear thinking were the same skill, applied to different circumstances. Lauren had been smart enough to advance her career and manipulate her personal relationships, but not wise enough to consider the long-term consequences. Gregory had been clever enough to pursue multiple situations, but not shrewd enough to choose his paths carefully. Natalie and I had simply been smart enough to compare notes. 3 months later, I heard through mutual acquaintances that Lauren had found a job at a small firm in another city, handling routine legal matters for a fraction of her previous salary. Gregory had opened a solo practice, specializing in personal injury cases and struggling to rebuild his reputation. They were no longer together. Apparently, their connection had been less durable than either of them expected when it was no longer hidden. I felt no satisfaction in their continued difficulties. The anger that had sustained me through the divorce proceedings had faded, replaced by something closer to indifference. They were no longer my problem to solve or my wounds to heal. Brooke and I settled into our new routine. She cooked dinner twice a week, badly but with enthusiasm. I helped with her college applications and pretended not to notice when she came home after curfew on weekends. We were learning how to be a family of two, and it was working better than I had expected. One Saturday morning in early spring, I was at work at the salvage yard when Natalie appeared in my office doorway. She looked different, lighter somehow, as if she had been carrying a weight that had finally been lifted. "I wanted to say goodbye," she said. "I am moving to Seattle. My sister has a consulting firm there, and she offered me a partnership." "That is great news. You deserve a fresh start." "So do you." She hesitated. "Ryan, what we did, it was necessary. But it is not who I want to be long term." "I understand." "Do you?" "Because I am not sure I do." Natalie sat down across from my desk, choosing her words carefully. We were both hurt, and we responded. It felt right in the moment. "But now you want to be someone who builds things instead of tearing them down." "Exactly." She smiled. "You were always perceptive." We talked for another hour, about new beginnings and second chances, about the difference between justice and revenge, about the cost of carrying anger for too long. When she left, we shook hands like business partners concluding a successful deal, which, in many ways, is what we were. That afternoon, I cleaned out Lauren's remaining things from the house. Clothes she had forgotten, books she had left behind, small personal items that had somehow escaped the division of assets. I packed it all neatly into boxes and drove them to her new apartment across town. She answered the door wearing jeans and a faded sweatshirt, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. Without the armor of professional clothes and perfect makeup, she looked younger and more vulnerable. "Brought you your things," I said, setting the boxes just inside her door. "Thank you. That is thoughtful." Her apartment was small but clean, furnished with pieces from discount stores and garage sales, a far cry from the suburban home we had shared. But it looked like a place where someone might actually live, instead of just exist. "How are you?" I asked. "Better than I expected. The work is not challenging, but it pays the bills. And I am sleeping better than I have in years." "Good. That is good." We stood in her doorway, two people who had once shared everything and who now had nothing left to say. "Ryan, I really am sorry. For all of it." "I know you are. Do you think someday we could be friends? For Brooke's sake." I considered the question honestly. "Maybe. Someday. When the scar tissue is thicker." She nodded, understanding. "Take care of yourself." "You too." I drove home through the suburban streets where we had built our life together, past the houses of neighbors who had watched our situation unfold with fascination and judgment. Some of them waved. Others pretended not to see me. It did not matter anymore. Brooke was waiting when I got home, an acceptance letter from the state university in her hand and a smile on her face that reminded me why some battles are worth fighting. "I got in, Dad. Full scholarship." I hugged her tight, thinking about the future she would build for herself, about the mistakes she would avoid because she had watched her parents make them first. Lauren had wanted an open relationship. Instead, she had given us all the gift of truth. Messy, painful, but ultimately liberating. Sometimes the best response is simply refusing to carry someone else's deception any longer. Sometimes the best response is building something better from the wreckage they left behind. Sometimes the best response is living well. Comment. This story really got me thinking about how much self-respect matters in every relationship. I believe we all have the right to set clear boundaries and protect our own peace. Taking responsibility for our healing is one of the bravest things we can ever do. Being kind to ourselves after pain is what truly helps us move forward. I've learned that responding with dignity is always more powerful than reacting out of hurt. You deserve relationships built on honesty and real respect. Choosing peace over endless drama can change your life in beautiful ways. No matter what you've been through, you still hold the power to create something better. I hope this makes you pause and reflect on what you truly want in your own life. Thank you for watching with me today. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.